Hello everybody. So it's been almost 2 weeks since I've done a video with evaluation of every single stock in my coverage universe, all of the stocks that I cover on the channel, that I've covered on the channel, and that I will continue to cover on the channel. So today is August 23rd, it's Wednesday, and I am providing you the update. So if you're used to this sort of video, you know it always goes through the same process. I give a little commentary on each stock. Sometimes the commentary is a little updated. Sometimes it's not, but if you don't want to go for a commentary, feel free to pause the video, take a screenshot, and look at the valuation. These are the valuations as of today, just now, this morning at 11 a.m. This is what valuations look like, and we can see which stock is expensive and which stock is not. And we see Nvidia is still extremely expensive, so much more expensive than any other stock. But let me get started with this. If you are new to the channel, let me explain to you this spreadsheet. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. I make these videos mostly because it helps me reach new viewers. These videos, right, they're always the same. They help me reach a lot of new viewers. So if you're new to the channel, what I do on this channel is I focus on hyper growth stocks. So growth, but growth on steroids. I want my stocks to grow revenue at more than 30%. And why do I want more than 30% revenue growth? Because I estimate monetary inflation to be about 15%. So to me, if I were to invest in a stock like in an ETF, say the triple Q, the Nasdaq, which has done about 15% a year, in my view of the world, I don't make any money if I make 15% per year, because that's inflation. That's how much monetary printing is debasing the currency. And sure, right now with the Fed, we're in a phase where the money is not being printed as much, but we know it's just kicking the can down the road. We see the deficits. We know there's going to be a $2 trillion deficit next year. Who's going to have to finance that deficit? It's going to be the Fed, and it's going to be through QE, which means that even though we may be getting a year right now that has only 5% new money supply, we're going to get a year in 2024 or 2025 where we're going to have 40% new money supply. It really averages out to about 15% monetary deflation, right? How many new dollars are out there? That's the denominator. That's what I'm trying to beat by investing in stocks. I'm trying to beat the denominator, to beat that 15% rate of devaluation, and the only way to beat it is to invest in hyper growth stocks. That's the only way to beat it. If you want to match it, maybe by the triple Q, maybe Google, Apple stock will match it, right? Not investment advice. Maybe they will match it. But to me, to exceed it, you have to go into hyper growth stocks. You have to go into stocks whose products or services are getting adopted. And they're going to get adopted, these products, at a rate that is going to be much higher than the 15% threshold that I have for even my investments, for even owning anything, as the threshold is 15%. So I invest in these stocks that are getting adopted. The whole idea of my style of investing is I try to find stocks whose products are really early on in their adoption. That's why all of the companies that you see out there, there's no consensus out there. These are companies that are heavily criticized because nobody agrees, because they're early on in their product adoption phase. So my goal is to find companies whose products are just beginning to get adopted. And you understand why, for example, if you just look at this like a Tesla or an Enphase, Enphase is solar roof, Tesla is electric cars. These are right here. They're just getting adopted, right? It's just the beginning. And my goal, of course, is to get out of these stocks once everybody has adopted the product, right? So if you were to take Apple as an example, I would be buying Apple in 2008, 2009 when I start seeing iPhones everywhere, and I would have probably sold Apple by now because iPhones are everywhere now and everybody has them. So you really invest following the mega trend. It's an investing style that follows the mega trend. I have a few tweaks for my style. One of the first tweak is I use enterprise value and not market cap. Market cap is just an old metric that's not very relevant. It was very easy to use, so a lot of people were using market cap. But market cap has always been used as an approximation of EV. EV is much better because EV takes out debt. So you have a lot of companies that have a lot of debt. When you use enterprise value, you're just looking at the net cash and you remove the debt. So it's a more fair basis of comparison. And I only focus on gross profit. I don't look at earnings because my companies are too early for me to look at earnings. They are way too early. By the time a company begins to trade on its earnings, the adoption of the product is done. It's a mature company. Mature companies trade on earnings, not companies that are brand new. And of course, the key metric of this valuation spreadsheet and this framework is the enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth. So what is EV over GP over RG? That's my spin on the PEG ratio, the PEG ratio of Peter Lynch, which works well for mature companies that have earnings. I've changed it a little bit by using EV because I like enterprise value better than market cap. Gross profit, because I believe my stocks are optimized for gross profits but not earnings, so I don't think it's fair to use earnings. And then revenue growth. And revenue growth I use as a proxy for gross profit growth, because assuming a company is optimized for gross profit, the gross profit should not change much over time. What changes the most over time is how much revenue you gain, right? How much more revenue you make each year. So and this metric, EV over GP over RG, this metric, what it does is it asks the question, how much are you paying for one single point of growth, one single percentage point of revenue growth, forward revenue growth? How much am I paying for it? And in my style of investing, I want to pay as little as possible for each percentage point of forward revenue growth. So it asks the question, how much am I paying for that growth? And as a growth investor, I want to have a lot of growth, and I want cheap growth. I don't want to be paying a lot of money for that growth. And that is why the stocks are ranked in the way that they are. So, answering the questions, which are the most undervalued growth stocks right now in my coverage universe? Well, the most undervalued growth stocks are HIMS, StoneCo, and Love. This has not changed. Like the structure of the market, the valuation that the market is granting to the stocks has barely changed. We've seen a general uplift of the market, but these stocks are still being ignored. Like the stocks that are very, very much dirt cheap are still being ignored. If you follow the channel, you may see that, for example, if you look at Palantir, there was a time where Palantir was very, very cheap, and now Palantir is very expensive. And in a matter of 6 months, Palantir moved from very cheap to very expensive. Tesla used to be much cheaper, and now it's a little bit more on the expensive side. So some stocks fluctuate in their valuation, and some stocks sometimes become more expensive and less expensive. In the case of these three cheap stocks, their performance is doing very well. Revenue growth is going great. Like HIMS, for example, they updated their guidance 3 times, like lifted it up 3 times, and the stock is still being ignored. So there will be a time, in my view, where the valuation of the stocks gets re-rated by the market, just like it has for Palantir. Palantir is now my most expensive data stock, and it used to be my cheapest data stock for the longest time. So there will be a re-rating someday of these stocks, which is why I have it in the ranking, but right now they haven't changed in almost 6 months, so the market is still ignoring these companies. Now, as far as the most expensive stocks go, the market actually has not changed either on those. They're Nvidia and Shopify. In this spreadsheet, they're the only 2 stocks that have more than a 1. So you're paying more than a 1 for each percentage point of growth, which is twice as expensive as the average growth stock that I have in this spreadsheet. This is very expensive growth for either of the stocks, and I have actually sold out of those positions, even though I used to own them, used to own them. I used to be happy owning them, but I have sold out because I cannot explain why they are so expensive. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each stock within each megatrend and give you a little bit of a commentary about my preferred stocks in these megatrends and what I like about them and what I don't like about them. So let me get started with the energy revolution megatrend. Energy is at the core of everything we do. It powers the economy. It is the base layer of industry, of the service economy, of agriculture. Energy is one of the most important sectors. It's one of the most important inputs that you can have in the economy. And there's a revolution brewing in energy. Definitely a revolution brewing in energy. Oil is, no pun intended, but getting on the back burner, forgotten forgetting a little bit about oil today, and a lot of companies are of course focused, and households, companies and households are focusing their attention on electric. That is the revolution that we're going through, an electric revolution. I have 3 stocks in my electric revolution, energy revolution stock: Tesla, Enphase, and STEM. So Tesla. Do we need to talk about Tesla any more than YouTube already does? Probably not. All you need to know about Tesla is that their cars are getting adopted. No issues left and right. Everybody's buying the car. I suggest typing your zip code and looking how many Teslas are for sale in your zip code. Typically they will try to have you go in a 200-mile radius, and when you see how many cars are for sale in a 200-mile radius near you, you'll see it's typically 20 or 30 cars, which is nothing compared to any other car for, say, a dealer. Dealers have thousands of cars available. You want to buy a car, a traditional auto, a traditional gas car, very easy to get. You want to buy the right Tesla, the Tesla that you want for you, with the right color, whatever you choose, you almost have no choice but to order it. They are really operating now in the equilibrium, like the sweet spot that Elon Musk had been talking about. Because, for the longest time, if you go last year, for example, for the longest time, Tesla had shortages. Like you had a wait time. You had to wait, 2 to 3 months to get a Tesla. Today, you don't have to wait much, but they are right at the sweet spot where the wait is not a deterrent to people trying to get the cars. They found the sweet spot between the supply and the demand, and they adjust pricing to sell those cars. Those cars are getting adopted. Why are Teslas getting adopted? Because they are dirt cheap and they are better. They're cheaper and they're better. They're cheaper to operate, right? They cost about 10 times less to operate than a gas car. I've got these calculations before on the channel. And of course, when a product is 10 times better, one order of magnitude better, there's no choice for people to adopt it. That's why people are flocking to Tesla and adopting Tesla, just like they adopted iPhones when the iPhone came out. And it really, really doesn't matter what people try to say. This product is getting adopted. Not to mention it's a better product in every single way. It's S-curve on top of S-curves on top of S-curves. 10x 0 to 1 moves on top of other 0 to 1 moves. Tesla is the company of exponentials. And we've had an outstanding guidance for Tesla. Elon Musk had told us 50% revenue growth, vehicle delivery growth. And so I've translated that in my spreadsheet as a 50% growth rate for the next 10 years, which is what Elon has told us. But that could actually be more than that, because of course the energy segment, the Tesla energy segment, is growing at more than 100% a year, for a segment that 2 years ago most people didn't even see coming. So this is a company that has a lot of optionality, that can do a lot of things, and I don't talk about Tesla much on the channel because everybody covers Tesla, but just know Tesla is my number one position, and I love Tesla very, very much as a company. Now, how about Enphase? Enphase is a similar story to Tesla as far as total return goes. Actually, when you compare Tesla and Enphase, when you look at the top 2 stocks in the S&P 500 over the past 10 years, that was Tesla and Enphase. These are the top 2 stocks. Enphase is only focusing on residential solar. You put solar on your roofs, you power your house. That's the vision in Enphase. The vision of Enphase is a vision of decentralized energy, a vision where every single family home has enough solar panels on their roof to more than sustain their needs in electricity as well as power the electric cars. And if you follow the solar energy world, and if you follow Enphase, you know that this is the technology right now. This is more than possible. Now, this field, just like electric cars, this field is moving so fast that if your data is just 5 years old, right? And 5 years ago is not a long time ago. Five years ago is 2018. If you have data from 2018, or if you're operating from information that you've heard in 2018, you're like, oh, this is never gonna work. This is a pipe dream. This is green ideology. Except the efficiency of solar panels, the progress of solar panels has kept going for 5 years. So people need to update their frames of references. And when you talk about things like the energy revolution, if your frame of reference is just a year old, your data is outdated. Your data is outdated if it's just a year old, because that's how fast it moves. Today, most roofs have enough space for 7 to 9 times all of the energy needs of the house, right? Today, winter is not a problem if you oversize a system. If you oversize a system, if you put more solar panels than you need, if you oversize a system, you can power your home through the worst 2 weeks out of the year, right? Today, having gray weather or having a rainy weather is not a problem for solar panels anymore, because solar panels technology has evolved to capture more rays that go through the sun. There's so much that goes into it, and it's just like a Tesla saves a tremendous amount of money, creates a lot of value, and people adopt them. This is the same for solar. People are adopting solar because solar creates a lot of value. It allows you to be energy independent, but especially it allows you to get free energy, right? It's a 5, depending on where you live, it's a 5 to 9 year payback period on a solar system, and you eliminate your electric bill, which is why it's getting adopted left and right. Enphase is actually a top tier, a tier 1 stock. It's one of my top 2 stocks. So Enphase is a top 2 stock for me, along with Tesla. And then I have a small cap. In this channel, I don't shy away from small caps. But my small cap is STEM. So what is STEM? STEM is an installer of megapacks. They install the Tesla megapacks. It's still at least more than half of what they install, and they also install Chinese knockoff of those megapacks. There's a lot of Chinese copies, essentially, of the Tesla Megapack, which STEM installs as well. STEM has a lot of ties with battery manufacturers in China, and of course, STEM installing these Megapacks for industry. It's mostly for industry, either behind the meter or front the meter. So front the meter would be this industrial facility. You have a warehouse, and they need a battery pack because they have a solar roof, for example. That would be the example of front of the meter. Behind the meter is you're installing the megapacks for the utilities, because the utilities, instead of, say, building a new picker plant, building a coal or a natural gas picker plant, they'll say, okay, I'll just have a small field of megapacks installed, and I'll just use these megapacks to mimic what a picker plant would have done. And STEM, of course, right now, they're in a ramping phase where they're installing those megapacks, and so they're growing very rapidly, but the growth margin, 87% year-over-year revenue growth, that's tremendous. But the gross margin is not quite there, because most of their revenue is still hardware installs. They are moving into software, though, and the hope is that whenever they sell a hardware install, they attach their software, which is called Athena, which is an energy management software, and they have 80% margins on the software. So this is a company whose margin should slowly increase towards software-like margin, to the point that when this company is fully mature, they have a portfolio of energy assets under management. They have a portfolio of batteries under management, and it's the management of those batteries, the sale of the software to manage those batteries, that creates an amazing gross margin. Nonetheless, this stock has been left for dead. It's ridiculously cheap at a 0.18. In a megatrend, the energy megatrend is usually an expensive sector, right? This is the same sector as electric cars. This is historically a very expensive sector. This is sustainability. This is electric, and in that historically expensive sector, you have a very cheap stock in the form of STEM. So again, small cap, been left for dead, but very interesting company in my view. Then moving on to the healthcare sector. So megatrend of healthcare. Healthcare is getting revolutionized. They're getting revolutionized just like retail got revolutionized by the internet. Healthcare is going through a convergence right now. You have a convergence of digital technologies, the ability to see a doctor on your phone, Video call, video conference. You see the doctor, say hello to the doctor on the phone. No need to drive 20 minutes across town to go to an appointment in a medical office building that costs tens of millions of dollars. You don't need to do that anymore. You can consult a doctor from the comfort of your home. And of course, if a doctor prescribes you something, because most diseases are being cured through prescriptions, right? Drugs is how 70 to 80% of diseases are cured. Let's say you see a doctor, you talk to the doctor gives you a cure. Of course, where do you go get those drugs? Do you go to the pharmacy? Do you go to CVS in the era of internet, in the era of 2-hour shipping with Amazon? No, you don't go to the pharmacy. Of course, you get it shipped. And that's why pharmacies are getting disrupted, just like bank branches or Blockbuster was getting disrupted, or retail in general. Malls are getting disrupted. There's 45,000 pharmacies in the US. Do we need 45,000 pharmacies in the US when the advice of a pharmacist can be given on your phone? And of course, that drug can be shipped to you through the mail overnight. You receive it the next day. And most of the time, if you go to a physical pharmacy, they may not have your pharmacy in stock. They may not have your drug in stock. You may have to wait anyways in a physical pharmacy. They may make a mistake in the prescription. They may not have it. They may tell you to come get your prescription, but they actually don't have it. They don't have prepared it. You have to come back. Lots of issues to me. The convergence of digital health and the convergence of digital pharmacy is obvious. And my pick in this sector is HIMSS. HIMSS is a stock that got started with historically stigmatized conditions like ED, for example, or hair loss. A lot of people were reluctant to get treatment. Today, they can get treatment easily. You can see a urologist very easily. You can see a specialist very easily in your phone. And if there's a prescription that is decided, if a doctor that you see on your phone or talk to on your phone decides that you need a prescription, HIMSS can fulfill that prescription, send you the drug through the mail. It's an e-pharmacy and an e-doctor in your pocket. I really believe in this company, and I cannot believe how cheap this company is. This is what has pushed me to really get an outsized position on HIMSS, because HIMSS is a bigger position for me. Is the cheapness of the stock. This is a company that has updated its guidance 3 times in the past 3 quarters, and we're now predicting next 12 months 57% revenue growth, right? 80% gross margin. So customers are really adopting this quite a lot, and the stock is trading at a 0.038, which is insane. I have never seen a stock this cheap on this spreadsheet. The forward growth of HIMSS, you are literally getting for free. I mean, this is a stock that, if you were to analyze it through value investing lens, would look dirt cheap just from a value investing standpoint. So the valuation for me for HIMSS is entirely ridiculous, especially when you consider that the business model of HIMSS is much similar to SaaS, in the sense that once someone gets a prescription, they keep paying a monthly fee. It's a monthly prescription, right? It's monthly money that HIMSS receives. It's like people are not going to cancel that easily. Anyways, stunning company in my view. I'm more than happy to own HIMSS. Let me move on to the data warehousing, data monitoring stocks. So I have 4 stocks: Datadog, Snowflake, Palantir, and MongoDB. I'm going to go very quickly here because these are B2B stocks, and sometimes they are less popular. Nonetheless, I think it's a very healthy sector to get into. I think corporate spending will go back up. Companies are moving from being human-driven to being data-driven. Today, most companies are data-driven. They are stacks of apps on stacks of other apps. It's just apps stacking on top of apps, stacking on top of apps. So the company is becoming a big data machine. And how do you operate that data machine? Well, you need to have companies that are operating in the cloud and that are really good at that. So the first one is Datadog. What does Datadog do? Datadog is infrastructure monitoring. So Datadog monitors all of your apps, all of your stacks of apps, and whenever there's an issue, you can detect the issue and fix the issue with Datadog. And because of that, it analyzes trillions of data points from all of your apps of a big enterprise and allows you to solve issue and look at the issue within your servers, within your cloud service. So that's what Datadog Datadog does, and Datadog is growing very fast, 35%, 80% gross margin almost. Stunning company. Then you have Snowflake. Snowflake is the cloud data warehouse. So historically, companies have stored their data on in-house servers, on-premise servers, and they're moving their data to the cloud and storing it in the cloud. And Snowflake is a cloud agnostic data provider, i.e. you're not storing it in AWS or in Microsoft Azure, you're storing it in the data cloud, which is the Datadog cloud. And storing your data in the cloud is very, very helpful. It's very advantageous. One of the advantages, for example, is that you can share your data very, very easily with other companies, and you can do all of the permissioning and grant permissions, remove permissions. You can charge for your data. There's a whole bunch of applications that are getting built on top of data once it is on Snowflake. Loading your data on Snowflake for a company allows you then to analyze that data, and Snowflake is growing fast, although their growth has stalled a little bit in 2023, which I was disappointed about 6 months ago. They changed their guidance down. They actually halved their guidance, which to me was a shock. But nonetheless, I think this is still a powerful company. First company on there, the most expensive out of the four, is Palantir. Palantir is the operating system for the military of the West, for the U.S. military and allies, right? And what they do is they are this company that allows you to make decisions based on your data. And Palantir, I think the description of Palantir is very interesting. It's from Lord of the Rings. If you follow Lord of the Rings, Palantir is the stone that allows you to see the future. The Palantir is what you see the future with, and so they named the company Palantir because it's a company that can offer you a course of actions that can tell you how your business should be run. It's AI that can propose to you, you should do this, you should do that. If you do this, this happens. If you do that, that happens. It helps you make better decisions. To me, the company, the proof of concept is much stronger in the military sector than in the commercial sector. Right now, in the commercial sector, the growth has stalled, and it's understandable because companies are holding back on spending still, and Palantir is a more expensive product. It's a very expensive product, so it's easy for companies to be like, I'm going to cut Palantir out of the equation. So right now, there's a growth slowdown in Palantir. I find the stock pretty expensive. I found the correlation of Palantir with Nvidia actually to be pretty uncanny. It seems like Palantir has caught on the AI hype and is trying to ride the AI hype, and we'll see. Hopefully this is not a stock that gets to $30 too fast, because if it were to get to $25-$30, I'd be probably interested in selling it, because I believe this stock has risen too fast over the past 6 months. Last stock in there is MongoDB. MongoDB is a niche company. They focus on NoSQL database. So no SQL. In the world of database, in the world of coding, you have some people that really don't like SQL, and for that they use a NoSQL database, which is MongoDB, and MongoDB is the leader in that space, and they've carved a niche with developers for them, right? Snowflake uses SQL, by the way. That's one of the main distinctions, and MongoDB is same. It allows you to analyze the data, to upload your data. They have an Atlas software, which is very popular among people. The company is growing still at 30% rate. Gross margin is excellent, and this is a company that is expensive right now. It used to be much cheaper. If you go back 6 months ago, it used to be much cheaper. But these stocks, these data stocks, have gotten quite expensive. Now, moving on to cybersecurity. So, what about cybersecurity? Why do we care about cybersecurity? Well, today we all live in cyberspace, right? How many hours do we spend in front of a screen? Whether it's your phone screen, your car's screen, your computer screen, if you still have one of those. So how much time do we spend in front of a screen, whether it's the screen in your Tesla, the screen in your phone, right? Tremendous amount of time. So therefore, we live digital lives. And since we live digital lives, security is not the bodyguard at the mall, like the mall guard, the mall cop. Like, it's not that. That's not security anymore. The mall cop doesn't matter if it makes any sense. No, the security today is online. It's digital security. It is what matters the most nowadays. Digital security, right? If you take bank robberies as an example, there's not a lot of bank robberies happening in the physical world anymore. But digital robberies, digital theft, it's a real thing. It's a real powerful thing. And you have three stocks that deal with that for me. CrowdStrike, Zscaler, and Cloudflare. Let me get Cloudflare out of the way. Cloudflare I find a little expensive. What Cloudflare does, Cloudflare is a VPN for websites. It prevents DDoS attacks by hiding the IP of the website and by hiding the origin of the website. If you can't see where the website comes from, you don't have any surface attack and you can't attack the website. That's what Cloudflare does. Now I have CrowdStrike and Zscaler. I own both, and I own them in a little more of CrowdStrike than Zscaler, but I own them both in roughly equal parts. Why do I like CrowdStrike? CrowdStrike is quote-unquote an antivirus. What they do is they prevent your computer from getting infected by a virus, by a threat, any threat, really, any type of threat, the first time. They try to prevent it. Now, when CrowdStrike catches any new attack, they're cloud-based software. So they update the knowledge of the attack. They broadcast it to all of the computers on the network, such that if a computer gets attacked with something new on the other side of the world or on a company that you've never heard of, but they happen to have CrowdStrike will take that info, broadcast it to all of the devices that use CrowdStrike around the world, and it's hundreds of millions of them, and there will be an update. So essentially, it makes any cyber attack effective once. That's the whole idea that they're trying to do. And that's why companies also have Zscaler, because let's assume you have a computer attack that is effective once. CrowdStrike looks at it, reads it, catches it, and broadcasts a patch to everybody in the network. Well, what happens if you have a computer that's actually infected? Like your laptop, your phone has a virus on it. What happens? Well, you don't want your whole network to be infected. That's why you have Zscaler. Zscaler is zero trust. What it does is it prevents any spread of a virus from a device to another device. It silos each device. And whenever there's a connection between one device on a company network and another device, that connection is secured through Zscaler. It goes through Zscaler. So what it does is it prevents the entire network from being infected. It minimizes the infection that a virus can have to only one machine and not the spread to all of the machines in the network. So this is in a nutshell the cybersecurity space. Let me move on to e-commerce. E-commerce is another major megatrend, perhaps the most advanced megatrend right now, right? In a lot of countries in the West, we're at 30% adoption of e-commerce, but e-commerce is going to be much more than 30%. If you ask me, it still has another doubling. I mean, it still has another doubling. You still have a lot of retailers out there, but we're getting disrupted. We're definitely getting disrupted. There's 3 companies in this space that I have. I have MercadoLibre, C Limited, and Shopify. Shopify is the more expensive company out there. They create websites for brands, and brands use Shopify to sell their products. Their motto is from startup to IPO. Like Shopify can be the operating system of your commercial website, from startup to IPO. And in fact, if you look at this spreadsheet, you may know that Figs is powered by Shopify. Figs uses Shopify, and Figs is a public company that powers its online sales. It's a company that sells mostly online with Shopify. And that's not it. Like if you look at Tesla, the Tesla store, the accessory store of Tesla is also powered by Shopify, which I think is very interesting. Nonetheless, a very expensive company. It's been dubbed as the anti-Amazon company, or like the company that competes against Amazon. And because of that, I think it has that's the only explanation that I have why it has such a premium valuation. Additionally, it's a Canadian company. You'll find that Canadian companies tend to be expensive. I do not know why, but it is the way that it is. And at 21% growth, the growth has stalled. It's not the greatest. C Limited is the same story. This is a company, C Limited, that used to grow much faster. They've gotten caught in the whole trying to show earnings trap, trying to show EBITDA trap. They've stopped investing in their growth, which is why now they're showing 16% growth because they stopped investing in that growth. I wish they had just broken even an EBITDA instead of showing more than $1 billion delta compared to a year ago in their EBITDA. Anyways, I've done a full video on C Limited. C Limited is a company that I'm studying right now, and that I'm studying what I'm gonna do with C Limited. But I might sell C Limited. I've been pretty disappointed with their report and with to me they haven't made the right decisions. We'll see. I'll make another video if I decide something on C Limited. The last one is MercadoLibre. I love MercadoLibre. MercadoLibre to me is the best e-commerce stock. Everything's doing well. The metrics are doing well. It's growing fast, navigating a challenging environment in Latin America, doing really well in Argentina, even though Argentina is very challenging as a country to do business in. The e-commerce website has a lot of traction in Latin America. Lots of people love MercadoLibre, and it's a company with a high net promoter score. They have a lot going for it, and they're still growing at 33%. So they are succeeding in markets where others are failed. Like for example, C Limited famously failed in Brazil. And the leader in Brazil is MercadoLibre. So anyways, MercadoLibre, in a nutshell, is kind of an Amazon, but it doesn't have AWS. So it's Amazon without AWS, but it's not, it doesn't have all of the side investments that Amazon has, which makes Amazon, if you remove the AWS from Amazon looks like a pretty scary company to invest in. That's because Amazon keeps investing. MercadoLibre, I believe, is managed internally more conservatively than Amazon and more laser focused, right? One of the problems with Amazon, in my view, is that they're not laser focused. They do just about everything. They released a robot, a fitness band, the Fire phone. I mean, they're not as focused. Anyways, let me move on to the payments space. So we have DLocal, Square and Stone. DLocal went up recently. More expensive stock. They power a lot of international transactions. DLocal is a company that's growing fairly fast. And if you watch my PayPal video, I actually looked at DLocal versus PayPal and kind of compared the two, and a lot of the explanation I believe for why, say, a company like DLocal is growing so fast and why so many newcomers in the payment space are growing so fast is because they're taking share from the established player, which is PayPal. PayPal is the established player, and a lot of these new companies are taking share because they are charging less. DLocal is an interesting company. The stock went up quite a bit recently, so I would wait for it. I would wait for it to slow down right now if I was looking at DLocal. I am not looking at DLocal right now. Square. Let me move on to Square quickly. Square, the growth has stalled for Square. So Square is kind of a question mark for me right now because of that growth being stalled. However, the potential of the Cash App at Square, cannot be understated. The Cash App is the most popular app out there. It costs next to nothing. They start out doing direct deposits. You have a lot of Gen Z who are getting their paycheck on the Cash App. The Cash App could be a mini bank or a replacement for a bank or a neobank. That's what it could become. You could have people who live with these new financial apps and that never go through a bank phase, but they just stay and live on these financial apps. This is a stunning company. Very, very, very small acquisition cost. Like if I were to choose between a Square and a PayPal, I would choose Square any day versus PayPal, for example. But nonetheless, that growth has stalled, and so it's not my favorite stock out of the three. My favorite stock out of the three is STNE StoneCo. StoneCo, Brazilian Square, the Square of Brazil. They have payment terminals. 90% of their business is payment terminals, and they focus on processing transactions for small businesses in Brazil. The company is growing very fast. 40% revenue growth is actually higher than that. I should have updated that a little higher, actually, if you look. Right now, they're growing, if you analyze the current rate of growth, you're at about 50% growth for StoneCo, and it is dirt cheap. At this price, it's, to me, I love this stock at this price. It's dirt cheap. It's not as cheap as HIMS, although they used to be about the same. Now it's actually more expensive than HIMS, which is crazy to say. But this is a stock I cannot understand how cheap it is. It's a stock that can please both value investors and growth investors. That's why Cathie Wood and Warren Buffett own it, and I own it. And I love StoneCo very much. I think this is a company with a lot of potential. They are laser focused on their market, on their business. Moving on to the chip makers, and what can I say about the chip makers? There's a lot of AI hype right now. Yes, Nvidia is the growth is picking back up in Nvidia, and we'll see tonight if that growth is indeed picking back up even more, right? That's what we'll see tonight. But it's a $1.1 trillion company, and those metrics to me don't make any sense in my spreadsheet, which is why I have sold Nvidia. Because those metrics don't make any sense to me in that spreadsheet. It is way, way, way too expensive for that growth. You're paying way too much for the growth in NVIDIA, in my view. And I understand that they can sell everything they make and that the demand is through the roof. We'll see tonight if that valuation is warranted. Then you have AMD. So AMD's growth is slower than NVIDIA. AMD, is a company that's more diversified, that I like better than NVIDIA because it is more diversified historically, and it is cheaper. It's almost a reasonable valuation compared to NVIDIA. But one has to be careful about AMD because it tends to trade in tandem with NVIDIA. So if NVIDIA, say, is up and over 20% tonight, there would be no issue for AMD to also be up 20% because there tends to be a correlation between these two stocks, which means that if AMD is over 20%, up and over 20%, then you get into a 1. And a 1 is like my red flag. It's like, oh, that's getting expensive. That's like very expensive future growth. And AMD is a little late on a lot of the products that they're developing. And they focus on the CPUs, which is a problem because you sell 2 CPUs for every 8 GPUs, and GPUs is what command the premium price. So anyways, staying away, I find these stocks expensive. My small cap in there is Indie Semiconductors. I've covered Indie a few times on the channel. Indie is a provider of electronic equipment to the Tesla competition. The Tesla competitors, they need LiDAR, they need infotainment systems, they need semis, right? These new cars that compete against Tesla cars, these electric cars need more semis. Indie is trying to develop a product offering selling semis to the competition of Tesla. A riskier company, riskier stock. The market sees that in my view, and that's why the stock is trading cheap. It's trading cheap. I would argue this is one of the few stocks that's trading cheap where the cheapness of valuation is warranted, because this is a riskier company in my view. Nonetheless, very cheap, growing 100% growth in their products. So that's pretty stunning. Moving on to my lifestyle stock. So lifestyle is a megatrend. It's always been a megatrend. You have a new lifestyle that comes around, and people switch to the new lifestyle. And today with the internet, you have new brands that are developing. So I have a company in the beverage space called Celcius Holdings. Celcius is catching the US by storm. Very seldom can you go into a grocery store without seeing an aisle filled with Celcius beverages, gas stations, you name it, whatever, very popular drinks. And they seem to be doing very well. The price is okay, a little cheaper than the average, so it's actually an okay price, but the growth is stunning at 76%, and we will see how well they do in the future. Then I have Lovesac. So Lovesac is a very, very cheap company. It's a very small cap at 471 million. But look at this company making no sense, right? The revenue is 663, and they're trading at 471 million in enterprise value. So that makes very little sense to me. For a company that's still growing at 22% with a 53% gross margin, this stock is dirt cheap. The forward growth of this stock is dirt cheap. The reason why it's so cheap, though, is because the market is thinking nobody will ever buy furniture again. As I always say, that's too extreme of a statement. Of course, people are going to keep buying furniture, and they have a shot at selling furniture as much as any other company selling furniture. So why are they trading so cheap, even though they have millennial and Gen Z targeted furniture? If you know, Lovesac does beanbags. I don't know if you've heard of beanbags. That's one thing they do. They also do reconfigurable furniture, like sectional is what they call it. Sectionals that can live with you and go through the life of an entire household, kind of achieving a designer's dream. This stock, I'll be honest, it made its way in my lifestyle category because it is so cheap, because I have rarely seen stocks this cheap. The last stock in my lifestyle stock is Figs. Figs is trying to pull off what Lululemon pulled off in the yoga pants space. Lululemon turned yoga pants obscure clothing from the 90s that very few people would wear outside of a yoga studio. They turned it into a worldwide success. Figs is trying to do the same thing with scrubs. Scrubs, the outfits of healthcare, right? They're trying to make them mainstream, and they're trying to have people buy scrubs and wear scrubs in their daily lives, just like people now wear yoga pants in their daily life. So that's what Figs is trying to do. And of course, we know clothing brands can be very, very powerful. It's an old example now, but if you take the example of Levi's is one of the most interesting success stories of business, and that was with clothing. And the same is true for Lululemon. And what's the next? What's next? Maybe it's Figs. I don't know. The point is, right now they're going for a slowdown in their sales because healthcare is going through a slowdown itself. They had a major boom in sales back in 2020, 2021. But nonetheless, interesting company, very, very cheap company in my spreadsheet. 70% gross margins. That's got to make you love clothing. If you have 70% gross margin on clothing, I really like that business. It's a great business. This is a physical product, keep in mind, like 70% margin on a physical good, on a physical product is crazy. I have companies in there that sell software that don't achieve 65%, and they operate in the world of zeros and ones and in the world of bits. This is a company that operates in the world of bricks and mortars, in the world of atoms, and they're achieving a 70% margin, which is stunning, in my view, stunning. Okay, cloud. My cloud businesses, I have two niche businesses really quickly. Their valuation is, in line with the rest of my spreadsheet, perhaps a tad cheaper. I have DigitalOcean and Axon. So DigitalOcean, what they do is they provide small businesses with a cloud offering and a cloud service. AWS, Microsoft Azure. These services can be very, very expensive if you're just a startup with 2 employees or 3 employees, or if you're a small business with just 1 person. They can get very expensive. DigitalOcean is trying to sell cloud services to companies that are just getting started. And it's also a way for a lot of engineers and a lot of software developers to actually try their products, develop on the cloud without having to pay the very expensive fees that, say, an AWS has for a small business. So that's what they do. The growth at 22% has stalled a little bit because, of course, corporate spending is down because of interest rates and all the macro situation. Axon, I put it in the cloud category. Why do I put it in the cloud? Because nowadays, one of their main products is uploading those videos that are taken by police officers. Axon is now, the company has pivoted multiple times. But the second pivot that they did was these body cams. These body cameras for police officers, they were very, very successful. That was their second pivot. Their mission is to protect life. That's the mission of Axon. Now, the third part of their growth today is uploading the evidence, right? Uploading these video cams and all these cameras from officers, uploading them to the cloud, and they provide this cloud that allows police officers to manage their evidence, upload their evidence, record for the long run that evidence. And of course, that's a sticky business. When you sell to police stations, it's a sticky business. Police stations, they are not going anywhere. It's selling to the government. So as a result of selling to the government, you have a more stable business, but it also means that sometimes the sales cycle is elongated and takes a while to sell. Nonetheless, we're not seeing that impact because the company has 38% revenue growth for the next 12 months. We're projecting to grow 38% revenue. So growing like a weed. This is tremendously high growth for a company like that. So I'm very impressed. Moving on to the neobanks. My two neobanks are Nubank and SoFi. Nubank is in Latin America. SoFi is US only. I like both. I go back and forth. I don't know. I never know which one to buy. I never know which one I prefer. Right now, I still think I prefer Nubank because Nubank has an outstanding net promoter score. A lot of people love Nubank in Latin America. People love the company because it's oftentimes the first time that they have access to financial services with Nubank, right? You go to a world where people had no access to financial services, no access to neobanking, and all of a sudden they get a phone and they get the Nubank app and they have access to all of the quote-unquote joys of banking. And so because of that, they have a lot of new demands. They don't have to steal customers from established players. And that's one of the big pluses of Nubank, is you're going into a blue ocean where a lot of the customers that you're gaining, a lot of the new customers that you're getting did not have a bank before. They did not bank before. So that's why I like Nubank better. SoFi, however, is a neobank too, betting on the end of branches, and both of these companies are betting on the end of branches. SoFi has been able to grow tremendously fast for the US. They've been able to take a lot of customers from legacy banks, and they do that by offering financial products that have the best features and the best returns. And they can offer these financial products that are best in class because they don't have to pay for thousands and thousands of branches, and with average branch, I think something like 7 employees. They don't have to do any of that. I like both stocks, I like both companies, and I plan to owning both for the very long run. And the last company, for which I appear to be the only one to love, but that's okay. Based on the views on the channel, whenever I talk about Airbnb, I get no views. But I'll finish with Airbnb. I like Airbnb very much. I think Airbnb is a platform. Platforms are the best business model in my view. It's even better than a SaaS because with a platform, you don't have to produce a product, right? It's people sign up and people are the product. It's a two-sided platform. Your customers come because of the suppliers, right? The customers come on the platform because a lot of people signed up to sell stuff on the platform. So that's pretty much how it works. And Airbnb, in my view, not only is it a disruptor of hotels, and hotels, they still have a long way to go in the disruption of hotels. But not only that, it's also, in my view, going to be a disruptor of rental life and rental living, right? Before home ownership, before you buy a home, you rent a house. Historically, you've done it through the lease system. And the question is there enough trust in a lease? Can you, in a residential lease, can a residential lease provide enough trust between two parties, one renter and one lessor, right? One lessee, sorry, and one renter and one rentee. There you go. Can we have a system that has enough trust? Can the trust be there, for example, when it takes 2 years to evict someone through the courts, right? Can the trust be there? And the truth is, I think their vision, and they talk about this, right? And if you listen to the last call about Airbnb, the last conference call, they are moving into rentals that are more than a month, and it's actually about 20% of Airbnb right now. 20% of rentals on Airbnb right now are actually longer than 1 month. And this world of flexible renting, I think Airbnb is really, really disrupting. And so are we going to live in a world 10 years from now where most landlords, you're a landlord, you have a few single family homes that you rent. Are we going to live in a world where these landlords, instead of doing their own leases, they decide to rent long term, a few months, maybe a year, on Airbnb, rent it on Airbnb, where you have that layer of trust, where you have that insurance, where you have, and this is the most important thing, where you have the ratings of the people that are going to rent your space, and you know exactly how good the ratings are. And by the way, it's true for the renters too. The people who are renting, they want to make sure they have a good landlord. So they have the ratings of the landlord as well. So both people are rated in the transaction. It adds a layer of trust that is much stronger than the disruption of hotels, in my view. This is a company that has a strong potential to disrupt more than hotels. It's a company that, for growth, because they're only growing at 23%, for me, this company, I find it right in the middle as far as the growth goes. those. It's not expensive. It's actually a little cheaper than average. But if you look at this company through the lens of a value investor, the metrics are through the roof. It's a company that just makes a boatload of money. I mean, it's a technical term. They make a boatload of money. They make so much money. It's not even funny. It's like taking a credit card transaction on processing rentals. It's the take rate of each transaction of Airbnb is insane. It's a very profitable business. Some people are compelled to own it even if there's no growth, because it is that profitable of a business. But of course, there's growth, which is why I talk about it on the channel. If there was no growth, I wouldn't talk about it. I only talk about growth stocks. So I think this video is probably about an hour. So thank you so much if you've watched it all the way through. This was all of the stocks in my coverage universe. Not investment advice. This is just entertainment, not investment advice. I hope you were entertained. Entertainment only. Appreciate all of your likes. I appreciate them very much. Please like. It helps the video. Please subscribe. Please comment. Please follow me on X. Yeah, I should change that right now. It's X. Please follow me on X. And have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching and for supporting my channel.